of America's independence. On a foggy morning in 1775, Samuel Adams stood in the streets of Boston, watching British soldiers stationed at every corner. He knew that things had reached a breaking point. For years, the British Crown had imposed taxes on the colonists without giving them any voice in government, and the unjust laws only fueled their anger. Samuel was one of the leaders of the secret resistance, and he had just heard news of an armed rebellion breaking out in Lexington and Concord. That night, he gathered with a group of patriots in a dimly lit tavern and spoke with passion. "We will either be free or we will live as slaves to the British Crown forever." The men nodded in agreement. Everyone knew that revolution was coming. In July 1776, representatives from the 13 colonies gathered in Independence Hall in Philadelphia. Their faces were tense, but their eyes were filled with determination. Thomas Jefferson stood before them, holding a document he had written himself, and began reading in a steady voice. "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Silence filled the room, then applause erupted. This was the Declaration of Independence, the document that would announce the birth of a new nation. Everyone signed it, including John Adams and Benjamin Franklin, knowing that their signatures meant war with the most powerful empire in the American camp. George Washington, the commander of the Continental Army, watched his soldiers train in the freezing cold. The American army was no match for the British in strength, but they had something more important: the will to be free. Years passed, and the American land saw bloody battles. In the Battle of Saratoga, 1777, the Americans achieved a major victory, which convinced France to ally with them against Britain. Over time, the British Army began losing control, especially after the Battle of Yorktown, 1781, where the Americans and the French surrounded British commander. In 1783, American negotiators met with the British in Paris and signed a treaty that officially ended the war. Britain recognized the independence of the United States, and for the first time in history, the country was free. When George Washington received the news, he looked up at the sky and said quietly, "We have won, but the real challenge begins now." And so, America was born, a free nation thanks to the courage of men and women who refused to give up and insisted that freedom is worth fighting for.